Hi everybody, David Wesley here, and as you could tell from the title of this video, it's kind of an important announcement. As of the end of October 2024, I am retiring from YouTube. This is something that's kind of been in the works for a couple months. I told my supporters on Patreon about my plans a couple of months ago, and this is it. We're kind of winding down. I have to say, it's been a fantastic journey on YouTube, growing as a musician, spreading the gospel through song, and shining a light in dark places. The internet is a pretty dark place after all. And getting the chance to meet people from around the world, in person and virtually, and saying goodbye to a faithful community of 150 patrons on Patreon. So, why quit now? Well, there's a few reasons, and I'd have some notes here to kind of help me through this, because there's a number of things that just kind of accumulated over time, and it's not really just one thing, and it's not a decision that I came to lightly. So the first thing is what I want to call the short attention economy. So what I've noticed over the last couple of years, and this has been facilitated by things like TikToks and Reels on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, there really has been a progression towards shorter content. Even with my wife, kind of scrolling very quickly through TikTok. People's attention spans don't seem to be quite as long as they used to, and they're consuming online content differently. Now, this isn't true for everybody. I mean, I will listen to long-form videos while I'm doing chores or stuff like that, and actually, watch videos that are half an hour, 45 minutes long. But a lot of the time, people just kind of want their 30-second hit and they move on. Now, because my content is, in the sort of the 3 to 5 minute range and a music video, someone might see a notification on social media or on YouTube saying, hey, there's, new video from David Wesley. They know that, my content is best enjoyed with, good headphones, good speakers, maybe a bigger screen, even a TV, or at least like a tablet or a laptop. So they're not going to necessarily watch it in the moment, say, oh, I'll catch that later, and then never do. So like the stuff that I create just isn't really something that can be best enjoyed on the fly. And if I was making something that was on the fly, it wouldn't take as much effort as the projects that I do. Just because if I know that 100% of people are going to be watching through their phones, sound quality obviously becomes less of an issue for that. Same thing as video editing quality. But really, my content takes a long time to make. My a cappella music videos, even just the writing arrangements, take some time. And a virtual choir video that could take 3 or 4 months to produce, it's a lot of work, but in the end, it still ends up being, 4 minutes that might be, 3 minutes and 30 seconds too long for people to pay attention to. And I've noticed this in kind of my statistics on YouTube, on paper, so to speak. I have 227,000 subscribers. So that's leveled off with some dips for about a year. And but it's just a tiny fraction of people are actually watching my videos. It's a little bit discouraging, but I did see numbers like this, but those numbers came from 8 or 9 years ago. The algorithms in social media, which includes YouTube, they serve the goal of the companies that run these sites. Obviously, like, they need to make money. And the way that the algorithms work, it incentivizes certain activity from users and from creators. And really, there's an incentive for creators to be posting often to get people to engage and stay on the websites as long as possible. With my content, if I produce a music video once a month, if you're just coming to see my video, you'll sit down on your good device and you'll watch one of my videos, and then you'll go away. When you end your YouTube viewing session like that, that sends a negative signal to the YouTube algorithms that David Wesley's content is not keeping people on the site. So that's less likely to show it to people. There's also an incentive then for creators to keep posting things, whether it, for me, posting social media items between videos, just so that it gives you a chance to interact with my content, to show the algorithm that you might be interested. So when I actually post something that I want you to see, like a music video, then you're more likely, it's more likely to actually show it to you and give you the chance to click on it. But even when people see, a thumbnail of my video come by or a notification, the percentage of people that actually act on those or click on those is actually about, 4 or 5%, which is not terrible for YouTube, but yeah, it's just not overly encouraging. And I've tried different things over the last few years to try to shake up my content a little bit, still trying to stay with the format, because I do what I do because I feel that it's sort of a niche art form that's difficult to do. The one-man a cappella stuff, the virtual choir stuff, it's a specialized skill, and I try to do that to the best of my ability. But nothing has really kind of moved the needle on things. And that kind of leads to the next point, which is that I peaked with the pandemic. So yes, I did have my biggest viral hit, the one that makes me feel a little bit like a one-hit wonder, the evolution of music, worship music that I put out in July 2019. That really put me on the map for a lot of people. Had a lot of engagement from some of the songwriters actually that were featured in the melody, which was kind of cool. It led to different opportunities, leading worship at conferences. I was commissioned by Rick Warren and Saddleback Church to do an evolution project for them, so I got to fly out to California. That was really cool. And then the pandemic hit, and that created a second wave that was primarily focused on the virtual choirs, because that's all there was in terms of choirs during this time when the whole world shut down in 2020. So that resulted in a lot of interest, a lot of attention, a lot of people wanting to be involved in a virtual choir project with me. So Virtual Choir 6, which was the solid rock, summer of 2020 had the most participants, had 336 people, which was the biggest that I ever had. And of course, as churches were moving their services online, I get lots of notifications showing that people were actually pirating my videos to use on their Sunday morning. So that gave me the opportunity to do a little bit of education for some of the churches about the responsibilities of being an online content publisher. So that was a very busy time, and from August until January of 2021. I was actually on parental leave after my youngest son, Oren, was born. And the way things looked, it seemed like YouTube could actually, be a career for me, and, do my nursing stuff just casually to kind of keep my foot in the door. And this is the point where I did Virtual Choir 7, 8, 9, 3 months in a row, one Virtual Choir month, which now seems absolutely insane. But I was off of work. People were very engaged. There were many people pitching in their support on Patreon. It really seemed like a possibility. And then kind of real life hit. Since then, obviously, the pandemic eased and people were able to go back to their real lives. They were spending less time online. Inflation started to kick off and people's expenses went up. Support on Patreon went down. Particularly people that were only interested in supporting the virtual choirs and not the individual work that I was doing. The world just kind of went back to normal, and I kind of got left in the dust, which is fine because regular musicians that would do concerts and tours and stuff like that, they were completely sidelined during the pandemic, and I got that boost. So then it kind of went back to normal, where me, a nobody, kind of fades back into the background, and more conventional musicians kind of rise back to the place where they were, doing their stadium shows and whatnot. And I did try different things to try to keep things alive. Virtual Choir 12, Revelation Song. I teamed up with Elijah de la Motte, who is now a cello student at Juilliard at the college level. And he was on America's Got Talent. Did a collaboration with him that was, took many months to work on the concept, and I thought it turned out really great. Kind of fell flat. Then I got to collaborate with Brian Dirksen, who is, a legendary Christian songwriter for actually kind of reverse order. That was Virtual Choir 11. Again, it was fun and it was a great honor to work with him, but it fell flat. All these sort of things that I tried, just the interest just wasn't there anymore. And to be fair, like, work was still being done for the kingdom. The message of the gospel and a message of hope is being spread. But it came to the point where things just weren't being sustainable for me, and that's because of the next reason, which is rising expenses and falling income. So just like you, I fell victim to inflation, increasing interest rates, as the pandemic was easing and all that sort of pent up economic energy led to all that inflation. Because I work on paper anyway, part-time, and just the way that mortgage companies and banks look at income, my options for mortgages are actually quite limited, and I'm on a variable rate mortgage. And I did have the opportunity to lock in, but it never quite seemed like the right time to do so. So I rode interest rates all the way to the top, and in Canada, thankfully, they're coming down. But my mortgage went up by 60% a month. So that was a significant increase in my expenses. Everything else became quite expensive as well. At the same time, revenues started falling flat. I used to have lots of sales of CDs. That kind of stopped around 2020 or so. People aren't really engaging with CDs so much anymore anyway, and the few people that do, is just not viable to produce in small amounts because I have to pay for licensing for cover songs. And the same thing is kind of true with MP3 downloads. That's kind of become a thing of the past as well. It's all about streaming. I got to tell you, streaming pays peanuts. It can take like 240 or more streams on Spotify to hit $1, whereas you buy an MP3 on iTunes for 99 cents, I would see about 2/3 of that at least. So things just were not very favorable in that sense. Now, let me be 100% clear. Whether my different streams of revenue from being an online musician, whether it's music streaming and sales, YouTube ad revenue, crowdsourcing like Patreon, all of that. That's not the reason why I got into this, but investing the time that I have in developing things like my virtual choir server software that's able to manage those projects, the equipment that I've had to invest in, things like that. Like they cost money, but the biggest reason why the financial aspect is about time. So I'm a single earner supporting a family. So I have a responsibility to pay things like the mortgage, and we are coupon clippers. We are thrift shoppers. I haven't bought a new car in 20 years. I can't tell you. This might be the newest thing in my wardrobe. I just don't spend money on clothes, and my wife kind of makes fun of me for that my jeans are really out of shape, and I wear nursing scrub pants in public because they're comfortable, and I bought them. I might as well use them. So we're thrifty, and I do have these financial obligations. And what that means is that I had to spend more time at my real job, and taking time away from creating music. And that's fine. But what happens is it creates a little bit of a vicious cycle. So I work more at the hospital. That means I produce less content, possibly at lesser quality or complexity, which leads to less engagement with my content, which means that I have to work more at the hospital. You see how it can kind of go like that. And so I no longer really have time to fully engage as a musician, to hone my craft as a musician, or as like a video editor, or as a social media kind of person. And the thing is, as you probably noticed, things change, and if I stagnate, if I don't kind of evolve with the times, then it's easy to slip into irrelevance. So in order to keep up with the projects that I have, like the last virtual choir, number 15, that ends up taking away time from my family, and the different streams of income related to the music, especially Patreon. All that was had the purpose of replacing income from my job so that I could take time away from the hospital instead of taking time away from my family. And that just was no longer sustainable anymore. The last one is just creative exhaustion. I uploaded my first music video in 2010 when I was 29 years old. I'm now 44 years old. That's a pretty good stretch of time. But years ago, especially before, I had kids, creative ideas and arrangements, they came much easier. And with fewer responsibilities, I was able to kind of capture those moments. So when inspiration struck, I was able to really work with it. And sometimes, an idea would come, and I could, sometimes even work through the night just because the ideas were flowing. That doesn't really happen anymore. Creativity, bits of inspiration do strike, but now it's like, okay, well, inspiration has struck, but I have to work in the morning, so I can't stay up until 3 a.m, or responsibilities with the kids or other things come up. So I can only hope and pray that creative energy coincides with a block of free time. And I'm recording this about 10 o'clock at night because my kids are in bed. This is the other issue, that my kids being homeschooled, the blocks of time that I can do things like recording are quite limited. Before the pandemic, we thought, okay, we're gonna have 2 kids in school, the house will be empty during the day, be free to work on music type stuff. Nope, pandemic hit, we ended up homeschooling and a 3rd kid in the mix. So, life happens. So part of the issue is that with the limited time, I don't have time to just grow as a musician, to practice. All the work goes just into the product, which is, I might have time to practice a little bit just to nail the parts down, but I'm not doing anything that's going to help me sort of improve my performances. So long story short, I can't really give my best effort anymore, and it's become a job instead of a joy, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, there are definitely aspects that I still enjoy. It's really hard to make the most of it with such limited time. So what does this mean now? Well, this means the end of my a cappella videos in their current form. It also means that after 15 virtual choirs, there will be no more. So that's 15 projects over 7 years and hundreds of singers from around the world. It's been an amazing ride, but unfortunately this ride has come to an end. I'll be shutting down my Patreon. So my patrons are incredibly generous people. At the peak, I probably had, I think, 250, 260 patrons at the peak of the pandemic, giving anywhere from $1 to $100 US a month, which blows my mind. And even at this point, I still have 150 left. So many of them, said, that they would want to continue even if my output was going to drop, really low. And I appreciate that a lot. But I think a clean break was best. These people have literally, like, at times put a roof over my head. Like, that's how much support that I've received from them, and I can't thank them enough. So it's hard to say goodbye. So I may be retiring from YouTube, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to disappear completely, or forever. Inspiration may strike, from time to time, but content will come out very sporadically, and it might come in a different form. Might leverage some technology, has some ideas, something called a virtual choir. I'm not going to say anything more about that. But it's quite possible you'll never see my face again. And you know what? I never wanted to be the center of attention or be a celebrity or anything like that. I actually started, making videos on YouTube mostly to share my musical development, my creativity with my father. And it kind of expanded from that. A lot of it has just been growth and experimentation, and then people kind of joined in and became part of the journey. But I'm not someone that's, I want to be the center of attention. And that is the problem with all these algorithms and social media. The pressure to try to raise yourself up above the fray, to hold on to people's attention, it's very uncomfortable. 20 years ago, 19 years ago, I dropped out of a PhD program, and I remember thinking, we had to do these government grant applications, so just something that you had to do. And I remember thinking, I wouldn't give me money, why should anybody else? So I'm, the subscribers that came along, the Patreon supporters, the whole thing, it's all being kind of, I'm just a guy making music in my basement. So I've never been comfortable with promoting myself, and that's part of that may be part of the reason why maybe I didn't grow as much as I could have. If I really wanted to be a shameless self-promoter, maybe. I personally don't think that I have the skill to really rise above, anything that I've done. But I also don't have the desire really to self-market. Yeah. So like I said, I'm 44. At this age, my father had 3 kids in high school. Actually, his mother was 44 when I was born, but that's a long story. But my father at this age, he had given up playing tennis. He'd given up a lot of things that he did, for his own enjoyment. He became really laser focused on his job and supporting his kids. Put three kids through university. My brother has a PhD. He's a Bible college professor in Colorado. My sister is the head of marketing at IKEA Canada. I'm just a nurse. And my father continues to be generous to us even today, offering help when things like, hitting a porcupine with my car. That's the kind of generosity I want to be able to have towards my kids. And right now, I have almost nothing saved up for my kids' education, just because I've had this little distraction called YouTube. So I'm hoping to focus on my profession. Might possibly advance in that, go for a nurse practitioner, or just work as hard as I can, and try to support the kingdom in other ways, just not in such a public way. So just wrapping up, what's going to happen between now and the end of October, roughly. I will have one more a cappella music video for October. This video will be a bit of a sentimental goodbye video. I won't tell you what the song is, but hopefully there will be some people with something in their eye when they get through that, especially since it'll be the last one. I also hope to release a backlog of some of the recordings that I've made. There's about 32 songs that I produced for YouTube that haven't been released to commercial platforms like Spotify and iTunes, Amazon, all that stuff. Lots of reasons for that, but I'm going to try to release at least some of that so that they can be enjoyed in a more organic way that doesn't involve ad breaks and thanks to my patrons, even though that's very important. And there's also one thing that I do, another video that I want to put out that will point you in the direction of another kind of kingdom building opportunity. So if my work has meant anything to you, and this is primarily aimed at my patrons, people that have been supporting me financially, that there's something else that's meaningful to me that they might be able to put their support behind. So that'll be coming up too. I will try to do also a YouTube live stream, a bit of a Q&A session of some of the questions that people might have, not just about me leaving YouTube, but just about my time in YouTube in general. Like I said, I've had a lot of experiences, and if you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, a YouTuber or social influencer has bubbled up to the top. YouTube didn't even exist until my mid-20s. Yeah, so that's that. Interested in your thoughts in the comments, of course. And just so that I'm not taking too long with this video, I want to take one of my last opportunities to thank my patrons. You can see their names going across the screen, but a special thanks goes to these patrons. And these are patrons that support me at a level of $25 a month or more. I've never mentioned that figure and why these ones are on screen, but that's where they're at. So thanks to Marsha Hansen, Tim Keller, Tom McSherry, David Westfall, Timothy Treco, Bob and Sandy Learberg, Gary Barmore, Bruce Morley, Wayne O'Garini, Susan Hewitt, Chisholm and Chica, the Gomez family, Petro Prostatsky, Kevin Semenjak, Rebecca Turner, Kim Geiger, Cindy Pritchard, Bill Reagan, William Tanis, Marla Stevenson, Karen Avelsgaard, Micah Daniel, and Barbara Cox. Thank you one and all to you patrons, and thanks for everybody for watching this video. Be on the lookout for my last a cappella video, as well as that ministry opportunity that I mentioned before.